125 years ago, two families moved up here from Stowe. Most all of them shirt-tail relatives of mine. They said, we got to have a disciple church in this town. And they called up a preacher by the name of Lanson Wilcox, and they held a revival meeting, and they baptized the people in the river. And they came together, 16 of them, and that's how the whole thing got started 125 years ago. And they were so poor. They met in each other's homes. They met in little Schumann School. Stood up the street here. Now there's a magnificent eating place where the old Schumann School used to stand. And then a fellow by the name of G.S. Richardson gave them a quarter of an acre of land. They built this chapel. They put their lives on the line, those few people, and they erected a church. And these magnificent links in the chain. The church was about ready to die back in the early 1920s, and they heard about a young preacher and his wife by the name of Lester and Edith Dorr, who were teaching high school over in Lowell. Now, he was a graduate of Johnson Bible College. And he said, sure, I'll help you people out. For 25 years, when you had just a handful of people, he was there. If there was any money left in the offering plate after the other bills were paid, maybe he got $5, $10 for gas once in a while. Gave his life to this church. Literally. I think of some of the other magnificent links in the chain. I don't know if Marjorie Wykes is here or not today. Is she here? She's not feeling real good, I know. But I'll tell you, there's a magnificent woman who wrote the centennial history of this church, who wrote the Cascade Chronicles. The Slater family. Hugh Slater, how I loved him. 9 years as a home missionary. The great man. He and his son and their families. It's just a hunk of the parking lot now, and you wouldn't know, but they bought the old Rubrick property, and that's where Second Mile House was born. But what a beautiful link in the chain, and I'm thinking of another link in that chain today, and perhaps many of you have never met this man. I'm not sure that he even knows he's in this world. His name is Ed Murphy. You know his beautiful wife, Vi, who goes to feed him every day. Pathetic, the way his body is all bent over. He was Ed 15, 20 years ago. They had the kids' Sunday school class up there. They loved him every year. He took the kids to the ball game. It was Ed who suggested to us we ought to have Bibles in the pews. And as a good liberal disciple of Christ, I said, pews in the Bible? We have Bibles in the pews of this church because Ed persisted. He'd come to our prayer meeting on Friday morning, and he'd open up the door and praise the Lord. What a link in the chain he was. What a link in the chain Bob Achterhoff is over here. He scoots out and never wants anybody to thank him for the beautiful anthems, and they were beautiful today, but I'll tell you, I never appreciated a man so much in my life until I went to McAllen, Texas, and now Bezetta in Ohio. The hardest thing I ever had to do is to sing in a choir of people mostly 70 to 85. You try to sing in a choir like that. Now that's interesting. Well, I'll tell you, many of you people don't appreciate the music you have in this church. And the music is a strong link in the chain. Oh, I'm missing so many people that I'd like to call by name. Annie Bell Monroe. But I'll tell you, if it hadn't been for her, Second Mile House would never have been born. And Verna Haglund, that Sunday school teacher who won't quit. The kids love her. And the people who work in the kitchen. The people who serve on the committees. And I wish to heck some of you people get off your duff and bring a rake down to this church and help out Male Beam rake these leaves. Get them up! Get them up! I know you say you pay him a big salary, but it's just one person. Be a link in the chain. Wash a window. Plant flowers. Bring pies to the brunch or whatever they're asking for. 31 years means that Jeanette and I were privileged to pastor this church for 25% of its time. That's a long haul. But now you have a great new minister in place. Now, 25 years ago, Corky, they did a musical that was a surprise, and they called it The Velvet Glove. The lyrics were something, and for all those many years, I was called The Velvet Glove. Because in order to handle some of the people in this church, you got to use a little velvet. And my one bit of advice to you is, don't ever let this church get out of debt. The thing that's been wrong with the last two churches and the church I'm presently serving now is they got too darn much money in the bank. You know, when a young man gets out of debt, he quits striving. Goes to drinking or joins a country club or something. But when he's in debt, and when a church is in debt, they charge forward. Oh, but I'm telling you, man, and I say this, these are the most wonderful people that ever lived. And I believe that from the bottom of my heart. but love him and forgive him. And if you say he doesn't preach good sermons, it's your fault. Fill the church full of people, and he'll become the greatest preacher that you ever could have. Preaching to hunks of wood isn't very exciting. It's a beautiful link, chain. Goes back to Genesis in the beginning, and Adam and Eve, and we come up through the patriarchs and the prophets. We move along to the apostles, and of course to Jesus Christ and the martyrs, and all of these wonderful people, the reformers, the people who kept this church on front burner in Cascade, who kept expanding. Let's never forget Scott and Ruth Cousy, who with their nut money purchased so much property. Don't overlook them. There's so many. But the chain ultimately ends up in the book of Revelation, where John from Patmos says, one day there's going to be a new Jerusalem. The former earth and heaven will have passed away, but there'll be a new Jerusalem. And there won't be any crying there. There won't be any tears. There won't be any sorrow or sadness, for it's going to be joy and it's going to be glory. And that's why in the meantime, friends, you and I, for we're still part of this church, we still send our offerings. We still write letters of encouragement. But hold on to this chain. I know some of you are out there looking for the mega church. Oh, I got so tired of people telling me how wonderful Swigert and Baker and some of them were. And they probably are. But they couldn't handle money and they couldn't handle fame. And let's pray for them. But one day, the ultimate outcome is going to be the New Jerusalem. And may we all share in it. And in the meantime, friends of Cascade Christian Church, you stay as strong links in the chain. You pray for your pastor every day. You pray that the bills will be paid. You pray that the programs will not be curtailed, that nothing will be cut back, that Jesus will be avant-garde in this community. Wouldn't it be wonderful to meet you here 125 years for the 250th? We won't, but hopefully this church and additional links that will be added to the chain will still be here. God bless you. I love you very much.